Next panel session will be moderated by Lami Adekola, Deputy Country Director of the UK Department for International Trade. And this session's theme will be boosting trade and investments between the UK and Nigeria. So very specific Anglo-Nigerian trade. We want to see how we can boost that activity, and Lami will be moderating that session. So Lami, it's over to you.
Thank you, Wale, and a very good afternoon to everyone again. My name is Lami Adekola. I'm Director for Financial and Professional Services at the UK Department for International Trade. And as Wale had mentioned, we're discussing today on ways and methods to boost trade and investment between the UK and Nigeria. You would all agree with me that given the economic dislocations that have happened as a result of COVID-19, trade globally has been affected, and trade and investments generally have declined. But with the discovery of vaccines and the world seemingly starting the slow, gradual process to move back to normal, it is important we start exploring how we work that process to boosting trade again and building back better, as we normally say. So not just getting back to the numbers we were before COVID, but doing a lot more in terms of the numbers, and also building greener as the world is angling towards a greener economy and greener world. So I'll just dive into it and start by introducing our very interesting panelists that we have today. We've gotten panelists across the private and public sector from the UK as well. Gail Waranda is Economic Development Team Lead at the Foreign Commonwealth Development Office. She's based here in Nigeria. Martin Phelan is Africa Director for Investments at DIT. He's based in Cape Town. And Kunle Amida is a partner with PwC in Deals Advisory. And they all come with a diverse range of experience, and I am confident they will do justice to today's topic. But let's start the conversation by diving into a general question, which is, COVID-19, as I said earlier, has had a significant impact on economies globally. What should countries be doing at this time to encourage recovery and improve investment attractiveness? Because a lot more countries are beginning to position themselves to get some of these scarce investments flowing into their countries. So I'll start with Gail, then we'll go around all the other panelists on that very basic question for 2 minutes. Over to you, Gail.
Hello. So you want me to answer the first question, correct?
The general question, yes.
So the general question. Well, I think there's no doubt that trade has gone down, according to the statistics, as a result of COVID-19, but we are out of recession just. So it's looking up a bit. I think overall what the COVID-19 might have done to Nigeria, which is good, is it's propelled some reforms in the economy, including some bureaucratic reforms, but also some structural reforms in the economy with things like electricity tariffs, the bureaucratic reforms around CAMA, and I think that's good. But I think it's probably also propelled some reforms at the basic level of companies who are now looking for alternative suppliers, alternatives to oil, and for resilience in their supply chains. So this actually presents some opportunities for new traders. I think the government is now much more focused on alternatives to oil. So I think we're going to see increasingly interest, but we do have a short window before the 2023 elections in reducing bureaucracy and making it easier for the non-oil exporters. Over.
Thank you very much, Gail. I like the fact that you've taken the positive angle of Nigeria is leveraging the crisis to try and put in place much needed reforms and seem to be on the right path, even though there's still some more work to be done. But Martin, over to you. Same question, as in what should economies be doing right now to encourage economic recovery and improve their attractiveness?
Yeah, thanks, Lamy, and yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Gail has just said. Just I think from an investment perspective, you know, we hear, you know, forecasts from OECD and UNCTAD and the like of, you know, globally potentially, you know, reduction in FDI of anything between 30 and 40% as a consequence of COVID, at least in the short term. Also bearing in mind that, you know, FDI globally, you know, anyway was declining, though not quite at that level of pace. So the competition is getting tougher, and I think in terms of what governments, any governments looking to attract investment, you know, have to be looking at really seriously, and Gail has referenced this, is their relative competitiveness, and looking at how, you know, they can remove barriers, create more open trade environments, make the local business environment as attractive as possible. And I think we'll probably touch on a few of those specifics a bit later on. But I did just want to say one other thing that, you know, I think is really important for all governments who have foreign investment as an important piece of their economy, is not to overlook the importance of supporting existing investors in the market. You know, this is where, you know, more jobs come from through expansions on average than new investment, and making sure that, you know, we're clear about what the issues are for existing local investors, talking to them, getting into a dialogue, and asking how we can help, or governments can help them to develop their business further, I think is really, really important.
Yeah, Martin, thank you very much. That's a very, very important point. The last one, which is on investor retention and encouraging those already in country. I think it's a brilliant way to not just retain the current ones, but also showcase the kind of support and aftercare that goes into investors that do come into the country. But we'll now move on to Kunle, and basically, Kunle, same question. What should countries be doing right now to improve their prospects for economic recovery and their attractiveness generally?
Yeah, thank you very much. If we look at Nigeria, for example, a very important element which we need to deal with is to at least fix our FX regime. I'm in the deal space. I talk to investors regularly. When capital is flowing into the country, a very important question is what's the exchange rate that they come in, and also exiting at maybe in a few years' time, at what exchange rate do they exit? We have a lot of investments in Nigeria that have performed phenomenally in local currency. But when you, as an external investor, UK, anywhere, you look at those portfolios internationally, it becomes, they appear to be underperforming. That's a very important point. I think also market access is quite important. We've made progress with ease of doing business, but it's also quite important that we continue to open up the market and ensure that it's very easy for external investors to access the market. And then, given the scale of the informal economy in Nigeria, to be competitive, we need to accelerate the pace at which we are getting those informal to formalizing the economy, such that at least we have enough winners, enough companies. We can have more stories like the Flutterwave news that came out yesterday. We can have more stories like that because we are able to transition companies into a state investment. Thank you.
Thank you, Kole. I think very brilliant points, all true. So I'll go into a round of specific questions based on each panelist areas of expertise. And I'll start with Gail again. Gail, it'll be nice if you could shed some light on what you consider Nigeria's economic prospects for 2021, and also touch on some possible regulatory and systemic challenges that might be injuring trade and investment flows to Nigeria, and what should Nigeria be doing in terms of encouraging more of these flows happening. Then how can businesses both in the UK and Nigeria build better resilience to withstand future economic pressures? And while you're at it, you might as well touch on COP26 and the views towards supporting a greener economy globally. So over to you, Gail.
Great, thanks. Right, so what's the prospects? I think Nigeria's growth is hampered by something that's both a bonus and a downfall, which is the demography. So the reason that the GDP per capita is not going up in Nigeria and hasn't gone up since about 2014, 2015 is because the population growth is higher. So on a GDP per capita basis, we're still in decline. So that is the challenge. We need to get growth up to about 7% to start being transformational, and we're probably going to be in the 2 to 3% bracket for the next couple of years. And to get up to that 7%, what we need to do is really transform the economy from what economists call proper economic transformation, which is shift into areas such as manufacturing, higher value added agriculture, and more sophisticated services. So that means obviously getting investors into that space, ideally, because only a certain amount of that can be done with local investment. FDI is the biggest catalyst, as we saw in other countries, to moving up that value chain, moving up to the higher value added stuff. So Nigeria needs to do more to make it attractive for investors. And there's a series of things that they could do. First of all, people have talked about Forex. That's definitely the biggest challenge. That's what the IMF and the World Bank are constantly talking about, as are we. And it's not just about getting your money in and out at the beginning of an investment, at the end of the investment. It's also about having predictability and clarity for your imports and your exports. It's about having enough access to it. People can't access it at the moment easily enough. If they want to import inputs for their factory, they struggle still. So that's definitely a big one. The e-customs is really, really exciting. But what we would like to see, obviously, is a similar approach to East African Community, which is where they put the private sector at the heart of the customs reforms. So they sit on the committees, they piloted with the private sector. So, for example, tea and coffee from Uganda to the UK, flowers to Kenya. How does it work? End to end, remove the paperwork, move to blockchain. What can we do? And I think Nigeria is as well placed as Kenya and Uganda for piloting that, because it's got the tech. So that's a big one. Unblocking the delays there. We're twice as slow as East Africa on that side, and those two are the biggest single complaints from people working in Nigeria. In the short term, there's also the sort of challenge of investors getting out to Nigeria. We had some come out the other week, and they do their quarantining in the Hilton here in Abuja, but it's quite a hassle because you've got to quarantine both ends. So I'm hoping vaccine passports will come out, and that will reduce things. Obviously, I appreciate there's still the issue about whether you can transmit even if you've had the vaccine. So we're all going to have to still be careful. But that's another one in the short term. And then I think a general campaign around removing bureaucracy would be a really good one. It's not just at the ports, it's in a lot of places. And I just had an email from Standard Chartered this morning about a new piece of bureaucracy which affects investors and traders, which is now if you want to make a payment from your bank account, you've got to do more documents, even for small payments. It used to just be for the larger payments if you want to do a Forex. So they're no longer doing instant payments. And this is the irony, that Nigeria's got these wonderful, payment systems companies like Flutterwave and Paystack, and they've got great consumer platforms. That's the system side, the consumer platforms like OPay and Paga. But then at the other end, it's still having, it feels like we're going backwards a bit, because now we're not able to have digital remittances in Naira. TransferWise can't operate. And we've got these sort of increased restrictions, which all relate back to the foreign exchange. So that if there was one single thing, it would probably be Forex. If there were two things, it would be customs. But you asked the next question about sort of resilience. Nigerians are fantastically resilient. They really are. But I think taking it more technically, it's about resilience in supply chains, alternative suppliers in COVID. It's about looking locally. It's about also the UK, looking beyond Europe. So I get excited about other forms of fruit and veg for the UK, beyond Spain, and obviously other forms of fruit. Nigeria has a large amount of guavas, and we pay silly prices for these in the UK. But they're all sitting rotting in Benin, so state here. So, you know, and similarly for mangoes in Benue. So looking at these alternatives, I think is a good one. And your sort of final question was COP26, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which is linked. So I'll just finish off on that one. It's linked because it's, again, this opportunity out of a crisis point, which is what COVID has given us, is a different way of doing things over the internet, which means that obviously investors can have early conversations, but it also means great for the planet because we're not flying everywhere. But it's also pushed us to look at an alternative way in Nigeria of supplying energy to consumers. So we've got the 5 million solar homes project, and it's sort of basically now saying, right, you've got less money in your budgets, so can we be more creative about the way we build things? So we're very much pushing a build back greener agenda, and the UK is supporting, for example, on PPPs in Nigeria, because the fiscal budget for infrastructure isn't there. So it has to be a full revenue basis for a lot of the infrastructure, but we want that infrastructure to be green. But I think COP26 is got lots of angles to it. Energy efficiency is my big one at the moment. I'm actually jumping onto another call in a minute just about that, because we're seeing the stars align a little bit here. Increased fuel prices, increased electricity prices mean that suddenly people are interested in energy efficiency, and it has a pile of products and services and investment attached to it. Better performing standards of fans and air conditioners, but also industrial energy efficiency. So I'll stop there because I could go on forever. But yeah, that's my two pennyworth, Lami.
Awesome. Thank you, Gil. And very, very insightful. In terms of systemic challenges, I like how you've wrapped it up into two basic challenges that we need to focus on. If it's one, it's FX. We should get more clarity on the FX regimes and make it seamless for investors to come in and out of the country. And if it's two, we also need to address the issues at the customs and see how we could make that experience a lot better for investors and traders with Nigeria. So awesome insights in that respect. Martin, I'll come to you now. And basically would want to get your insights from the UK point of view and investments generally. So basically, I am aware that the UK is doing quite a lot in terms of supporting investments in Africa. But from your vantage position, it would be nice if you could share some specifics of what the UK is doing in Africa and Nigeria specifically. Then also, what kind of sectors do you believe are likely to be exciting new investment opportunities in the coming years, given what's happening with COVID, given the fact that we're trying to get back greener and stuff? What sectors do you think Nigeria should be focusing on to attract more investors? Then what do UK investors typically look at in economies before they make an investment decision to enter a particular market? And finally, it would be nice, based on your Africa remit, to see how Nigeria stacks up as an investment destination compared to other countries. So over to you, Martin.
Yeah, thanks, Lamy. I'll try and cover all of that in a few minutes if I can. So some of the people on the call may well be aware that about a year ago, just over a year ago now, the UK made a pretty ambitious commitment to be the investment partner of choice for Africa, and this was made by our Prime Minister Boris Johnson at the UK Africa Investment Summit back in January of last year. This was reinforced more recently in January of this year, again by the Prime Minister at the Africa Investment Conference. The conference itself, more recently, was very much about business to business, and it was a business to business conference. So very specific around the issue of investment and indeed trade and two-way trade was part of the agenda. Part of that was also to bring businesses together from the UK and Africa, encourage partnerships, encourage connections and contacts. We had a very good attendance, around just under 3,000 delegates came on board, about 1,000 UK companies, and pleased to say a little over 300 Nigerian companies also signed up and attended the conference on the day. Core to that conference was our Africa Investors Group, and that's something we've set up about a year ago. It's got about 27 now of our major UK investors and Africa-focused institutions, and our members of the AIG were really prevalent within the conference, and they, like us, are really keen and committed to continue to promote the investment opportunities in Africa more generally, including Nigeria, of course, and where appropriate, to also to be that critical friend, to provide views, if you like, from the front line of investment in terms of the sorts of challenges that they face in African countries, as they do in other countries around the world. So it's a kind of critical forum for us, to give us advice, to give us sort of up to date, on the ground kind of input. And I've been in touch with quite a few of them in advance of this conference, just to get an update on their views on their investment in Africa. And I'll touch on that as we get to the final question I think you asked, which was, how does Nigeria compare, and what are the sort of issues? In terms of stuff that we are doing, I'd like to just promote the investment deal room. It was something, like most things, it seems, we established a little over a year ago. It's basically a platform that provides the opportunity for proposals from across Africa to put forward projects looking for investment, and predominated on that platform are UK investors, mostly at the moment, mostly private equity, and we're looking a little bit broader than that to see if we can sort of make it a little bit wider. But we have a large group of private equity firms on that platform, and the purpose of that is to give an opportunity, particularly to projects that maybe fall below the radar of UK investors. So they're in that sort of, in that range between, maybe sort of 10 to 100 million, usually rather at the lower end. So more in the sort of 10 to 50 million sort of project scale size. Some are a little smaller, some are a little bigger. And we think that's quite important, because we think that is the group of projects where there is much less awareness in the UK. The very big projects we know, the big private equity firms, through their local networks will pick up. But these are from companies that are, mid caps often, with really interesting projects across different sectors. And in terms of Nigeria, we've currently got, I think, just short of, I think we've got 39 potential deals on the platform from Nigeria, which are going through various stages of the process. This is not a quick process, actually made a little slower by the constraints of the pandemic, where people can't travel and meet each other as easily as they could in the past. So we're really hopeful that we'll start to see some of these come through, and certainly anybody on this call who has an interesting project that they would like to promote to UK investors, please do get in touch with us, perhaps through you, Lamy, or directly to me, and we're very happy to put that forward for the deal room, which I have to say has a fairly strong filter, so that we do put forward projects that we believe have, through some early due diligence, got real potential behind them. So I would certainly encourage people to look at it and to pick it up if it's appropriate to them. And then I think just finally on that first point, across the wider government, I think in terms of what the UK has been doing, particularly through this last year, is worth saying, and I would particularly highlight the UK's development finance institution, CDC, which has been deploying money through the year. About £900 million have been deployed in support of local African businesses in order to help them to develop and grow. And initiatives like Manufacturing Africa also, which provides opportunities to establish really good manufacturing projects, and of course it's manufacturing projects in the right sectors that help to grow jobs and build deep capital into markets. And manufacturing is great because it's very hard to move once you've done it. So it's back to support for those existing investors once you've got them landed. Just moving on to, I think, the second question. I'll sort of speed up a little bit because I'm conscious of time. I think Gail's kind of probably stolen bits of my thunder, which is good because it means we're sort of all in sort of violent agreement. But I would definitely say, the opportunity through, the whole sort of Build Back Better program, particularly around sustainable investment, particularly around the green agenda, I think is a massive opportunity, and one where the UK, is already, a significant player across Africa and could do so much more. And looking at, renewable energy, I think is a real high level opportunity for Africa, and for Nigeria as it moves through, trying to reduce its dependency on oil, is a fantastic opportunity. And renewable projects, grow jobs as well. So I think that's something I think we're really, really interested in as we go forward. I think the other bit, which I think has really accelerated through the COVID space and that period, has been how companies have, shown resilience and the ability to sort of change, and, utilizing tech, particularly where perhaps they were more reliant in the past on sort of physical engagements. And I know some of our UK companies have been very innovative in shifting in certain sectors to deliver through digital means. So I think the whole digital space, I think it's a great opportunity for African entrepreneurs. I've been working with a few African entrepreneurs and their networks, and the level of innovation and creativity is phenomenal. So I think there's huge opportunity for us in the UK to help support those entrepreneurs most effectively, to help them grow their business, not just in Africa but internationally as well. And I think finally, there are obvious sectors where we need to look more strongly. The health sector, infrastructure. I think Gail mentioned infrastructure, and the important thing from our point of view is that we're able to match the opportunity with UK capability, and that's something that we're very closely involved with. So it's looking at where is the UK particularly prevalent and a leader. And Lamy, you will know as your role that fintech, we are the preeminent centre for fintech globally, but also in other areas of tech and indeed financial services, and utilising the innovation of the City of London and financial institutions. And then I think the final question, which is sort of how does Nigeria stack up? I think you asked about UK investors, what they look out for, but I think probably covered that earlier on. Basically, I think two words: stability and predictability. And if you can achieve that across your policy framework, you've got a pretty good investment environment. I think how does Nigeria stack up? Well, doing the rounds of UK investors, I think just on the sort of positives. First of all, Nigeria is very big. It's a huge market. It's got a really dynamic consumer base, and so for UK companies, one of the UK investors I spoke to basically said, and I'm just looking for my quote: "If you're not in Nigeria, you're not in Africa." And I think that was quite a well put phrase. Not sure that applies to every company, but I think it was an interesting response to my question. I think the messages I got back were, Nigeria, strong market, has a very good skills base, has an internationally recognized sort of legal system, and these are all very important components of doing business on the ground and establishing your presence in a market. You need to have those kind of support services. I think there was a quite a positive sort of statement. I mentioned it earlier as in terms of the entrepreneurial and sort of innovative base. I mean, I think there's a really dynamic private sector, and Nigerian companies really kind of drive forward, and are dynamic in their business. And I think that is important, particularly as we look more and more for the private sector to get involved in the development of sort of growth. On the debit side, I think it's actually been pretty well covered. I think foreign exchange, I mean, this is no surprise, came up as the constant, really. The difficulties in moving money, the difficulties in moving goods as a consequence of that, the customs issues, also potentially being a potential constraint for investors on growth. So I think the wider regulatory areas, there were also some quite specific sector-based ones, such as Gail mentioned. I had one coming out similarly in the insurance sector, and so I think it's tackling some of those. And I think finally, what I think Nigeria and other countries need to do is to provide the right sort of base and the right sort of platform for entrepreneurs, and ensuring that startup regulations and startup laws are open and flexible and allow creativity to flourish. So I would say in final point that we would hope that the economic growth and recovery plan that I think Nigeria has issued, that we see delivery, we see implementation of some of those things. So I'll stop there because I may well have run over slightly my allotted time.
Thank you very much, Martin. And I mean, we could listen to you all day because very, very, very impressive.
Not many people say that, Lammy, I have to say.
So that's the first. And if there's one thing I'll take away, you're not in Africa if you're not in Nigeria. I think that's a key point. And it shows the prospects that Nigeria has, but it needs to go beyond prospects to actual opportunities getting out there and deals getting closed. And that's a perfect segue to go into Kunle, the deals man. And Kunle and PwC are more or less like a gateway to a lot of things happening in Nigeria and transactions and stuff. So it will be nice to understand, Kunle, from your perspective, what's the role of advisory firms like yourself in boosting trade and investments between the UK and Nigeria? And also, what type of deal flows are you seeing in the economy? I mean, in the last 2-3 years, what kind of deals are you seeing? What kind of transactions are there? Then, from your own vantage point, it would also be good to highlight possibility of UK transactions that UK businesses can get involved in. And finally, what instruments and partnership can Nigeria and the UK leverage to also improve trade and investments? Mindful that there are a couple of questions from the audience coming up. So Kunle, immediately after your own position, we'll quickly run through those questions as well. Keep them coming.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I think as PwC, we've been around here for over 50 years in Nigeria, and as a deals professional, we interact with investors regularly through different means, actually. We publish thought leaderships that focuses on key issues in the economy. In recent years, I think we've published the focus on diaspora remittances I think we had a thought leadership on that few years ago. We've published thought leaderships on healthcare sector and power sector, how that can be revitalized. Beyond thought leaderships, as a member firm of a global entity, we also work with our colleagues in the UK, for example, through roadshows, through in-country and interactions in the UK, where we facilitate sessions for companies in the UK to have access to us, just so we can guide them, provide perspectives on sector developments, in-country macro trends, and other ideas. Beyond that, as a firm, being a professional services firm, overall, we provide quality advice to these clients. For example, if you're a UK investor, how do you structure your deals? Which sectors are meant to outperform going forward? Our deal strategy team provide innovative advice, market entry type support to these companies, just to make sure coming into a country like Nigeria, they have the right level of advice to navigate the they're coming into. A very important aspect as well, which we've in recent years helped local companies to ensure that at least their readiness is properly scrutinized by an independent party like us. And what comes out of it is around partnerships. We have these companies in Nigeria. The market is there. They have the local relationships, but they need these international partnerships, either because of technical expertise, technology, and the likes. So we facilitate all of these as PwC. And because we have this broad base of services and support that we can provide by coming to a firm like PwC, it makes it easy for us to provide the access to these entities, either from a tax perspective, accounting, as well as core advisory. And in deals, Nigeria, as we have it now, just 2 days ago or thereabout, MTN declared the largest revenue by a Nigerian company. And that was fueled by the data that we now consume when we all work from home. From a deal perspective, a very active sector that we've seen is the telco space across the value chain. We're seeing a lot of activities in that space. Companies now are looking to raise capital to scale up. There are some that maybe have been struggling before. Now they are accessing the market, trying to ensure that at least investors are attracted to take advantage of the infrastructure and assets that they have. Beyond that, last year was a very bad year for oil and gas. Now oil got to, I think, about $70 just a few days ago. And what we've seen across the entire value chain, upstream, midstream, downstream within the oil and gas sector, we're seeing a lot of activities there now. There are transactions that are being looked at, that are being worked on by ourselves, and I'm aware of others in the industry. So actively seeing activities in that space. Another important sector, which as a result of COVID, as prior to now, maybe has not received as much attention as it should have received, is healthcare. We are working on major healthcare transactions, and some of the transactions we are working on have significant opportunities and involvement for opportunities for partnership by UK companies, because these entities, these transactions are massive and requires equipment, partnerships, and the likes that will come from the UK. We are working on a Center of Excellence hospital project in Nigeria currently, which has the hospital management company coming directly from the UK. That's one of the good instances where PwC is facilitating transactions between Nigeria and the UK. Beyond that, there are still other opportunities that we see UK companies being involved in. And in addition, another sector or area where we've seen transactions lately is in the turnaround space. We've seen bargain hunters now trying to identify companies that, as a result of COVID, run into trouble, and they're coming to a firm like us to help them identify the reasons why these companies run into trouble and how they can be repositioned. And before I move away from the deals, beyond sector, what we've seen lately is that the instrument has changed as well. Prior to now, we do a lot more, not just equity. We are now doing a lot of debt advisory work as well, which maybe before now, we don't really get involved significantly in that space, but it's an active sector now where lenders, as a result of the experience they may have had during the COVID era, are now demanding some sort of validation of certain assumptions before loans are approved for companies, just so they can be sure that at least the experience of 2020 is not repeated. If we have to move to the question on how UK companies can get more involved in deals in Nigeria, if we take the infrastructure space, for example, a very big problem that we have here in this climb is the readiness of projects, the early stage support that projects require. Most of the projects that we have possibly fail because they are not properly developed and prepared for financing. When they get to investors, they are half-baked. A lot of the solutions that needs to be addressed, they are not well addressed. So I think from a UK investor perspective, having that, because of the developments that we have in the UK, transferring some of that, providing those types of support and getting involved very early will go a long way. In addition to that, I think having a more localized perspective will also improve the abilities of UK firms to participate on deals in Nigeria, because the transactions that we have here require a few things that may be different from what you apply when you are in a developed economy like the UK. So that localized perspective makes it easy. Maybe a third angle to it will be for those investors who have a long-term perspective. An economy like this, Nigeria is an emerging market. We'll always have these ups and downs. So it's quite important not to focus on the FX problem we have now, all these issues. We have them, but if you have that long-term perspective, you are able to do deals. And in the long run, it's quite easy for those to have a very profitable experience. And I think that finally, I think it is also important for investors from the UK to align their priorities with that of the government of Nigeria. As we have it now, government is prioritizing agriculture. The Finance Act 2020 even includes provisions that allows agricultural production companies to enjoy tax holidays. All of that priorities can appeal to investors because at least it improves the abilities of these companies to generate very positive cash flows, especially in those periods where they have tax holidays. So from an instrument perspective, I think investors now, given the experience we've had since 2015, from a financing perspective, having local currency financing alternatives is quite important. FX and inflation has really eroded the purchasing power locally as well as the aggregate demand. So most companies now are very careful when they look at foreign currency financing. So that local currency funding alternatives will really go a long way in boosting the profitability and sustainability of projects that we execute here. And being able to have access to early stage funding vehicles will also go a long way. There's no enough capital locally for these early stage projects to access because development funding is scarce in these markets. That all of these projects for investors here to be able to leverage the capital that is available in the UK to in deploying or developing their projects properly will go a long way. And then from a tech perspective, ICT, intellectual property, having access to the development in the UK in these areas will also go a long way. So as PwC, I think generally these are perspectives that we share. We remain very positive about the prospects of the Nigerian investment climate. And we've said it, we've been extremely busy during this post-COVID era, which shows the strength and confidence that investors have in these markets. Thank you very much, Dami.
Thank you, Kunle, and very, very good to note that you've been extremely busy and making all of the money in COVID times. Without much ado and mindful of time, I'll just quickly run into some of the questions from the audience. And Gail, I'll pass on the first one to you, which goes, how does Nigerian exports compete with other countries exporting to the UK? The volume has been low. What advice do you have for Nigeria to increase the volume?
So I think if you look at other countries, and I worked in East Africa for quite a long time, so I'm going to draw an obvious parallel from there, but also from Ghana, because I think it's a good one to compare with. The sector that they're doing best in is by far and away horticulture and fruit and veg, cut flowers, and obviously in Kenya, garments. Kenya and Ethiopia are big garment exporters to the UK, using a goer for the US, which they're kind of then springboarded to do to the UK. So I took Primark out to, and some of their suppliers out to Ethiopia. And the difference there is that East Africa has better customs and better cold chain. So if we really wanted to increase either horticulture, horticulture needs a good cold chain, which actually makes cold chain a great investment proposition for Nigeria. So yeah, we want refrigerated lorries and we want storage facilities, which is also quite an interesting PPP. We have our NIAF program, Nigeria Infrastructure Advisor Facility, doing exactly what Kunle wants, which is to basically look at some PPP development at the sort of startup stage. So yeah, cold chain is thing. So I think there are some niche areas. The UK is still looking for some products that are still quite short supply, and it's not just the favored things like guavas and avocados and mangoes. Even without a cold chain, you can do some of that. You could do dried mangoes, you could do dried fruit. So companies like Real Fruit have spotted that opportunity for Nigeria, but you could spot it for the export. So I think increasing the volume, there is no easy way, but the cold chain is probably one silver bullet, if there is one. And sort of freight arrangements, regional airports, regional airlines to take, an ideally two-way cargo. Then going for the niche, Rwanda's looked at essential oils, which is a growth area. People are into burning oils with candles, and massage is a big thing. So that's another area. So many of those niche areas, shea, cashew nuts, some of the Export Promotion Council categories that were mentioned. So that would be my suggestion. Over.
Awesome, Gil. And just to add a little bit, I think also getting the right standards and quality is really critical. And when Ben, our Deputy High Commissioner, was speaking earlier, he mentioned the business to government dialogue that we're having, where the UK government is speaking with Nigerian business solely for the purpose of looking at these little niggling issues and seeing how to resolve some of these issues to encourage more flows the other way from Nigeria. So that's one I feel I should also put on the table. Another question is, China has been increasing trade with Nigeria and indeed Africa. We had the UK Africa Investment Summit last year. How far have the agreements reached gone in implementation despite COVID delays? So Martin, you're in the perfect spot to answer that.
Yeah, thanks, Lamy. Yeah, it's a good question. I don't think on scale we necessarily look to compete with China, but just to answer, I think, the question, yeah, during the summit we did sort of two things. We made a number of announcements of projects across Africa. I have to say it's not specific to Nigeria, worth a total of £6.5 billion that were kind of done deals. But then alongside that, we made a number of other sort of commitments to projects, if you like, or these were projects that were in process that we believe we're going to push through, worth £8.9 billion. Now none of those projects, I'm really pleased to say, have fallen. Though we have seen, for pretty obvious reasons, some of these are very large projects getting deferred and therefore moving to the right, largely because of the pandemic. We have seen about £2 billion worth of UK investment being confirmed in the last year, a little over 2 billion now, across Africa. I don't have a kind of complete list of things in Nigeria, but I know, I think a company, Green Energy, have one of those companies that have committed investment. So we continue to drive our investment pipeline. Our investment pipeline from the UK is growing incrementally as we progress. So I think we have a pretty good story to tell. I think we are showing resilience. And we shouldn't forget that, Nigeria is already, a really big recipient of UK investment, about £5 billion in stock. That was pre-COVID. That was just before COVID hit. But stock is generally pretty resilient as opposed to investment flows. So I think it's effectively our third largest investment destination after South Africa and Mauritius, and I think sort of Mauritius is there for sort of other reasons, and that money is moving through Mauritius often into other African markets. So one could reasonably say Nigeria is kind of our second most important investment destination.
Thank you, Martin. And Gail, I know you have another meeting, but just before you run off, I'll throw this one to you as well, which is any plans for a bilateral trade agreement between UK and Nigeria post-Brexit? We have seen this being done with other African countries.
I'm not sure I'm the best on this, but I think the short answer is it would be a bit of a distraction right now, because Nigeria does have an existing trade relationship. So, you know, there aren't any significant increases in tariffs. So I think what we've got is a stable arrangement which benefits both sides. So kind of it's a bit of a red herring to worry about that bit. Or to spend time on it. I'd really much prefer that our bilateral dialogues focused on non-tariff barriers than the tariffs, because the non-tariff barriers are much, much more significant. And the regulatory challenges and the quality points are what we really need to focus on. Over.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Gil. And we have the Economic Development Forum, which is more or less our own platform to have this kind of conversations on trade and some of these non-tariff barriers and the rest being resolved. So there is a good arrangement in place. And I'm sure in slow time, the conversation would definitely come up on a proper trade agreement in slow time. The final question here before we wrap this up is also, I think, Martin, you could go. Cole, this is not deliberate. The questions are coming on the UK side of things. So Martin, UK export finance, how does a Nigerian company access this when importing from the UK? And also for infrastructural development in Nigeria for roads and power, how does UK export finance play?
Yeah, that's probably a seminar in its own right, Lamy, in terms of the various products and services that UKEF could offer. But basically, it's helping to sort of finance debt for supplies and local procurers can purchase effectively from UK suppliers, and then of course it's into the larger sort of project finance arrangements that UKEF can provide. Often alongside other financial support funds, including non-concessional sort of finance and that sort of stuff. So I think probably the answer to that question is please get in touch with UKEF, and I think, Lamy, you can arrange for one of our UKEF agents or representatives operating in Africa to give a much more thorough and comprehensive view of the sort of product set of UKEF than I can.
Okay, and I think that's been brilliantly put. And as we wrap this up, I'll just go around again. So in 1 minute, if you would give one simple advice of what Nigeria should and the UK should do as a summary in boosting trade and investments between both countries, this is your time. So 1 minute, and I will start from Kunle because I feel it's been isolated from the public. So Kunle, over to you.
All right, thanks a lot, Lamy. I think the country has my own view is that we have everything that we need to that we need to really be a big player globally and also improve the level of trade that we have with developed economies like the UK. We need to fix the fundamentals. We need to focus on the key items that will improve our competitiveness and appeal to investors from the UK. We've mentioned the things around FX, the formalization of the companies and players in this economy. And on the other hand, it is also important for UK investors to prioritize areas that the administration and that speaks to the need of the Nigerian government and companies. With that, they need to have local perspectives. When we speak to investors from the UK, it's quite important that they share the views and that we try to present to them here, and not just to look at deals from the lens of a developed economy. So if we deal with all of these key elements, I think this relationship will thrive a lot more than we've experienced.
Thank you, colleague. Gil, over to you.
Okay, so on the regulatory side, it's customs and forex. And then on the infrastructure side, I'd say, watch for the upcoming PPPs. Let's do some good collaboration on what's going to come out. Also on infrastructure, that's cold chain. So let's try and do something on the cold chain, irrigation, and broadband. So broadband and irrigation and cold chain are kind of like the unlocking, because that means you get good agriculture. It means you can then get some of the exports, and broadband gives you the whole digital sector. So we put forward a digital plan for states in Nigeria, and that includes doing things like they need to reform the rights of way. We need to restart the sale of SIM cards, and we need to also allow more mobile money. That is a silver bullet in many areas on the payment system side, and relax a bit on some of the regulation around payments. And then overall, in terms of what the investors and the trade people should look at, I'd say the niche areas, higher value add, exports on the agricultural side at higher quality using products like AflaSafe. And then on the investment, the opportunities are there in the infra space and in bringing up the quality. There are a lot of interesting spaces, but let's just keep talking. I think if there's one thing I'd end on, it's like, let's keep that economic dialogue forum, development forum going, have a lot more engagement, a lot of two ways, a lot more sharing ideas. We need that real top level government access to continue. Over.
Awesome, thanks. Martin, over to you.
Okay, I'm not quite sure how to follow that, but I'll do my best in sort of generic sort of way. I would say promote the opportunities aggressively, particularly around investment, because there's, not surprisingly, a lot of background noise out there, not just across Africa, but across the world. So Nigeria, along with other African countries, got to be confident about its offer and promote it vigorously. And we have to engage and partner in that to make sure that, it gets to the right people in the UK. So that would be my first point. I think the second point is around, the way to, I think the pathway to the future is through partnership and encouraging partnerships, whether they be public-private or private-private partnerships between UK and Nigerian businesses and institutions, absolutely critical. And I think the final thing is where's the sweet spot for, this is for Africa more generally, but Nigeria as part of that. And I think if we look at investing, one of the things came up in a conversation earlier this week with one of our big private equity firms is, impact investing is the big thing. Institutions, pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, etc. This is becoming, a critical piece of their decision-making process. One thing that Africa and Asia, to an extent, have as a USP is the ability to deliver impact investing outcomes and outputs. So I think, there's lots to be confident about. There are lots of issues to be resolved. But I think it's about looking forward positively and confidently to drive and grow investment over the next sort of years ahead.
Thank you very much, Martin. In summary, Nigeria has undeniable potential, and the UK is keen to be the partner of choice in actualizing that potential. And basically, this is the start of a conversation. We want to continue having these conversations with government, with private sector, and see how we could jointly work together to boost trade and investment both ways between both parties. And I am positive that the relationship will be strengthened in the coming years. So a big thank you to our panelists, Gail, Martin, Kunle. Thank you very much for doing justice to the topic, and thank you also to the audience and the organizers. So it's a wrap. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Lamy.
And thank you too to you, Lamy. Very well done in terms of moderating that session. Much appreciated. Very insightful, no doubt. And I think we touched on some of the thorny issues, and hopefully some useful advice has been given to our participants today. So thank you very much for that again.